let's talk about the best friends. First question, who are the best friends? The best friends are, or were, my favorite pro wrestling faction. So what's a wrestling faction? Pretty simple. It's 3 or more pro wrestlers. So 2 wrestlers and a manager, that's a tag team. 1 wrestler and 2 managers, that's a performance review. 3 managers, that's just a meeting. So 3 or more wrestlers form a wrestling faction. So the best friends are formed by Chuck Taylor, Trent Beretta, Orange Cassidy, and Chris Statlander. And let me tell you a little bit about them. So the founding members of the Best Friends were Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta. They started the Best Friends as a tag team back in 2013 in a promotion called PWG, which stands for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, which I am so glad to get to share with you. They are a strong tag team, if not necessarily a successful one. They're always high up on the card, but they never won the big one, right? So they are successful. They travel around the independents, wrestle in Ring of Honor, the first one. And crucially to our story, they are members of the original AEW roster when the company started about 5 years ago. And that first year especially, the Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, did very well. They were high up on the card. They had lots of big matches. They actually gave AEW one of its first 5-star matches when they wrestled what the Pro Wrestling Observer described as a groundbreaking parking lot street fight match. And if you are trying to decide what's weirder, the phrase groundbreaking parking lot street fight match or the fact that there is a periodical known as the Wrestling Observer, which gives star ratings to wrestling matches, I'm going to ask you to hold that thought. Otherwise, we're going to be here all day. But the important thing is that, yeah, the Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, they were doing really well. And they thought the one thing that would cement them as main eventers and really put them over the top would be to bring in a mascot. Enter Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy is the 3rd member of the Best Friends, and he came in from the independents as a comedy wrestler. He was friends with Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta previously, and although he could wrestle very well, he was a bit of a controversial character when he first came in. So Orange Cassidy's thing is that he's kind of like the laziest man in the world. He's too cool for school. He doesn't really try. So he stands around, in his denim jacket, wrestles in his jeans, has shades on, hands in his pockets, barely responds to anything. And for the first, few months he was around, he was just, kind of appearing in the background of, Best Friend segments or, other things that were happening backstage. But over time, people saw he could wrestle. And from there, the sky was the limit for Orange Cassidy. He became incredibly popular. It still is incredibly popular. He had 2 runs with the international title. His first run with the belt was 330 days long, and he had 31 defenses during that time. That's a record that's going to last a long time. They were high on Orange Cassidy, and he got a lot of opportunities because of it. And if you're asking, do you mean opportunities in storyline or opportunities in real life? Yes, because in wrestling, those 2 things are very often linked. Let me tell you about the 4th member, though, before we continue. The 4th member, Chris Statlander, came in about 3 months after Orange Cassidy, and she was a space alien at the time. She's not anymore, but she's big, strong, tough, cool. She can do like a 450 off the top rope. That's just insane. Chris Statlander's awesome. And she doesn't spend quite as much time with the Best Friends as like the other 3 members of the group, just because, a lot of her storylines are in the women's division. But when it's time for everybody to get together, you better believe Chris Statlander is there. So let's go back to the original Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, before we continue. So while everything's going really well for Orange Cassidy, things aren't going so well for the Best Friends, who are now wrestling on the B show, and then they're wrestling on the C show, and then it would be a couple weeks, maybe a month between televised matches. Now, they were still showing up on TV, but they were showing up as members of Orange Cassidy's entourage. And there'd just be these little moments. Not often. It happened, a few months apart. But Trent Beretta would just kind of reveal that there's a little bit more going on there. It wouldn't be jealousy, it wouldn't be bitterness, but he'd just say things that over time meant more than, what he was really saying. So for instance, Chuck Taylor would come back from injury and Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander would be like, "Oh, we're so glad you're back." Trent Beretta would say something like, "I came back from injury earlier this month too." And they're like, "Oh, yeah, we're glad you're both back." Stuff like that. He just kind of doesn't want to have to keep saying, "Hey guys, I'm here too." So if you are a fan of pro wrestling for long enough, you know that factions exist to eventually break apart. And we all knew the clock was ticking on the best friends. And that brings us to about 4 weeks ago. So Chuck Taylor has been out with a serious, real life ankle injury for the past, almost a year, maybe more. It's been a while. And obviously, in addition to that hampering his career, Trent Beretta all of a sudden doesn't have his tag team partner. And so he's getting booked less and less. He's having fewer and fewer opportunities to show up on TV. And so when a tournament is announced for the vacated tag team championships, Trent Beretta ends up tagging with Orange Cassidy. Chuck Taylor's like, "Look, I'm out injured, but Orange, he's hot right now. Why don't you and Orange tag together, go win the championships? You can finally win the big one, and we can have something great, that the best friends have accomplished together." Well, Trent is all about this. He is on board. This is going to be a validation of everything that he has put in. This is going to justify all the hard work. Finally, he's going to get his flowers. You can already see where this is going. So, the best friends, Orange and Trent, they're doing really well. They actually get to the semifinals of the tag team tournament, and they run up against the Young Bucks. Now, the Young Bucks are a famously successful tag team. They have won a sarcastic amount of championships all over the world. You name it. AEW, Ring of Honor, New Japan. They have been everywhere. I can name more than 3 promotions. Shut up. So, they've been everywhere and they have won everything. Even in AEW, they're 2-time tag team champions. So they go up against the best friends, Orange and Trent, and they're actually doing really well. This is a big match for them, and whenever it's a big match, Chuck Taylor comes down, and in the meantime, let's wind back a little bit. Once Orange Cassidy starts becoming a main member of the roster, the best friends get a new mascot, Sue. Sue is Trent Beretta's real life mom, and she shows up maybe once or twice a year, and for big matches, she drives the whole team down to the ring in her minivan, and she's just camped out at ringside being an adorable mom. She's great. Everybody loves Sue. So Sue is there, and Trent and Orange are doing really, really well. It actually looks like they might pull this off. They're doing all their big spots. They're doing their best friends moments. They meet in the middle of the ring and do a big hug. They land this big offensive sequence. They have an opportunity. Trent Beretta rolls out of the ring, smooches his mom on the cheek, rolls back in, and walks into an offensive sequence that ends with him getting pinned. 1, 2, 3. Best friends are out of the tournament. How could this happen? Trent Beretta is beside himself. He can't believe it. Orange Cassidy tries to console him. He's like, "Hey, it was a good run, man. Come on. Yeah, we did well." Trent, he's trying to process it. Chuck Taylor gets in the ring. He's like, "Hey, we're still the best friends." They go to the corners, get together for the big meet in the middle hug spot. Start walking. Trent Beretta attacks Orange Cassidy, lays him out. Chuck Taylor stands there, completely stunned. Sue is horrified, and Trent Beretta storms off. Start of next week's show. Orange Cassidy comes flying out the curtain. Trent Beretta's following him. He's already beaten Orange Cassidy down. They brawl down to the ring, or more accurately, Trent Beretta whips his ass down to the ring and stands in there, microphone in hand. He says, Chuck, get out here. I gotta know which side of the line you're on. Are you gonna stand with me, your real best friend, the guy who started this all with you? Are you gonna stand with me, or are you gonna stand with this guy? This guy who came in here, who used us, who got every opportunity that we deserved and never, ever gave anything back to us. Did he ever share any of that success or any of that spotlight with us? Who's it going to be? Me or this selfish jerk, Orange Cassidy, with meaner words? And Chuck Taylor walks up to him. He's like, you're a piece of shit. And just decks him. And like, Trent bails out. He thought Chuck Taylor was going to have his back. So, Chuck is like, I'm still injured. They won't clear me to fight in the ring. But you know what? I'll fight you in the parking lot. Parking lot street fight match. You and me next week. Let's go. Meet in the parking lot next week. Chuck Taylor's like, Orange, I know it's no rules no matter what happens. You and Chris don't get involved. I got to settle this with Trent. Well, this is where I need to warn you that content warning, some of this gets a little rough. Now, I'm not going to be gratuitous or gross, but I am going to mention that people bleed. Like, there's going to be some spots with blood, and there's going to be some more spots where you can imply or infer that, that would be the result. So, pretty bloody match. And Chuck Taylor loses. Trent Beretta beats him. Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander come out to collect their friend. And Trent Beretta is standing there with a lead pipe in hand. And he said, you did this. Smashes Chuck Taylor's injured ankle. Show ends. Start of the next week's episode. Next Dynamite. Orange Cassidy walks down to the ring and he says, I can't believe that I have to deliver this news that Chuck Taylor will never wrestle again. I can't believe. Here I stand. I lost my best friend. My other best friend will never wrestle again. I was betrayed. And Trent Beretta comes out and he's like, oh, Orange Cassidy, always making it about you. Your friend just got, injured to the point of ending his career, and you're out here making it about yourself. Orange Cassidy's had enough. So he starts running up the ramp to go fight Trent Beretta, and security kind of surrounds him, pulls him apart. They don't get to throw any punches or anything like that. But somebody else comes out of the back and whispers something to Orange Cassidy. It's not Chris Statlander who's trying to separate Trent from Orange Cassidy. It's a man by the name of Don Callis, and we'll get to him in a minute. But Orange Cassidy and Don Callis exit backstage while Trent Beretta is ushered off by security. And that brings us to where I would like to start the story. And what I hope is not to predict where I think this story is going to go. I don't think it's going to go the way that I describe it. And I'm also not trying to say, like, this is what I think they should do, because I don't know. This is just my opinion. But what I'd like to do is book the rest of the rest of the feud now that we are 20 minutes into the video. I'm sorry. Following week on Dynamite, Orange Cassidy is standing backstage with Don Callis and the Don Callis family. Don Callis is a wrestling manager. He's been around for like 20 years. He's famous, and his thing is that he uses his backstage pull to get members of the Don Callis family, basically his elite team of super wrestlers, title shots, matches on big cards, that sort of thing. And he's talking to Orange Cassidy, just saying, like, Orange, I think it's terrible what's happened to you the past few months, watching your friends abandon you like this. But that's the thing about friends, Orange. They change, they move on, they stab you in the back. What you need is a family. Orange Cassidy's just like, what? Sorry. Don Callis doesn't appreciate this, but he continues. What do you want, Orange? You want revenge? I'm Don Callis, baby. Like, I can make revenge happen. Do you see this right here? Kenny Omega's responsible for that scar. I put him on the shelf for a year. What do you think I can do for you and Trent Beretta? You want revenge for him putting your friend Charlie Taylor out of wrestling for good? Here's your chance. Orange Cassidy's just like, it's Chuck Taylor. Walks off. Later that night, a wrestler named Rocky Romero has a title shot for the TNT Championship against Adam Copeland, who's basically running an open challenge. Now, who's Rocky Romero? Rocky Romero is not a member of the Best Friends, but he's in their orbit. He was a tag team partner with Trent Beretta in a tag team called Roppongi Vice in New Japan Pro Wrestling. They won the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championships 4 times, so they were a big deal. They were very successful. But Rocky Romero, since coming in to AEW, hasn't really enjoyed that level of success again. And last week, he was being interviewed about, the breakup of the Best Friends. And he said, I'm not taking a side. Rocky's focusing on Rocky right now, and I'm going for gold. That's the reason that I'm here. I'm not going to be, distracted by taking a side on this. Well, he comes so close to winning his match against Adam Copeland. Loses. And he looks despondent. Well, he's headed backstage, and, he's about to get interviewed, about how the match went. Orange Cassidy is coming out for his match next. He has a number 1 contender match against Jay White for a shot at the international title. And, basically he goes up to Rocky Romero and he's just like, it was a good match, Rocky. You came really close. And Trent Beretta comes up and he's just like, what, you stealing my friends now too? And, they start getting into it. And, Trent's getting heated. He's like, Rocky, what are you doing? You're not taking a side? You're with me. We're better friends. Who is Orange Cassidy to you? Roppongi Vice, do you remember? And, they're starting to, Orange and Trent starting to get heated. Rocky is just trying to keep them apart. Eventually just shoves Orange Cassidy. Not to the ground, but it's more than a, hey, let's break it up. They don't have time to think about that. Orange's match is up next. So, Orange goes down to the ring. Looks like he's about to beat Jay White. Trent Beretta comes down the ramp. Just stands up on the ring apron. Doesn't do anything. Doesn't interfere. But that's enough. Orange Cassidy turns around, sees Trent Beretta. Jay White capitalizes. Grabs him, hits him with the Blade Runner. Jay White goes on to to challenge for the International Championship. Orange Cassidy is furious. He sits up, goes running after Trent Beretta, chases him back into the backstage area. It's a trap. Trent Beretta has that lead pipe. He knocks Orange Cassidy down, keeps hitting him until security separates him. Next week on Dynamite, Orange Cassidy standing in the ring, and he says, Trent, last week you took my title opportunity, you jumped me and beat me up backstage, and you know what the worst part of all is? You made me run! And he just rips off his glasses. He's like, no more running. Let's settle this face to face. Double or nothing, strap match. So, Double or Nothing rolls around. But before we get to Orange and Trent, let's check in with the women's division. Because Chris Statlander and her friend, Chris Statlander is backstage with her friend Willow Nightingale. Willow has a match that night to defend her TBS championship against Mercedes Moné. Willow Nightingale's like, look, you know I said I want to see if I can beat Mercedes Moné with her at 100%. So I want you to stay backstage, Chris. Chris is like, absolutely, I understand. Ending stretch of the match, referee goes down. Willow Nightingale is kind of dizzy. Mercedes Moné, she has a set of like basically brass knuckles, like rings that go across all her fingers that say like CEO on them, and she's going for those. Chris Statlander sees it happening, runs down the ramp, grabs Mercedes Moné's hand as she's about to swing on Willow. Ref doesn't see the knucks, but he does see Chris Statlander. He goes to like get her off the ring apron. Mercedes Moné lays out Willow Nightingale, beats her. Willow Nightingale loses her title. So, later that night, Orange Cassidy has his strap match against Trent Beretta. So what's a strap match? Basically, there's a leather strap about 16 feet long with like cuffs on either side. And so basically both wrestlers are cuffed together, and the idea is basically like you're not going to get away until, we solve this problem, right? So it's kind of a no rules match with kind of like a little flavor mixed in, right? So Orange Cassidy comes down, they put the cuff on him. Best Friends music hits. Trent Beretta is playing mind games. So Orange Cassidy, does not look best pleased. He's looking up the ramp, waiting for Trent. Bam! Trent Beretta comes out of the crowd, hits Orange Cassidy from behind, and just starts wailing on him. They ring the bell, but Trent Beretta's going. Like, they can't even get the cuff on him. They are, like, he's just wailing on Orange Cassidy for like 2 minutes, hitting him with the strap, choking him with it, throwing him around the ring with it, just, beating the crap out of him. Finally, they managed to get the strap on him, and just things are so wild. Like, the ref gets hit, the key goes flying, like that thing's gone. So they're brawling back and forth, and Orange Cassidy finally starts getting the upper hand. He has Trent Beretta tied up in the ropes, like, his cuff is like here, and he's like kind of choking him, and like his arm is kind of trapped, and he's just choking him. Well, Rocky Romero rolls into the ring, and he goes up to Orange. He's just like, don't do this. Please don't do this. Let him go. Like, just let him go. Let's put this all behind us. Orange, he's not having it. Like, this has gone too far. He's got to settle this. Rocky Romero grabs the rope, hits Orange Cassidy with an enziguri. While he's stumbling back, Rocky Romero found the key. he uncuffs Trent Beretta. Trent Beretta gets out, slides into the ring, low blows Orange Cassidy, hits him with a strong zero, basically Trent's finishing move. Picks him up, hits him again, hits him again, hits him again. And finally the ref calls the match off. Orange Cassidy is not moving. So finally, like, Rocky Romero's just like, okay, he's had enough. And like finally convinces Trent Beretta to go back into the back. Well, suddenly some other ring music hits. Wait, it's the Don Callis family. Don Callis comes down to the ring with Takeshita, who has the next match, Kyle Fletcher, another member of the Don Callis family. And Don Callis said, you know, spit on my generosity, Orange. And I'm going to show you what the price is for doing that, boys. And they beat the ever-living shit out of Orange Cassidy. They wail on him. He is a bloody mess. He goes through like the announce table. He's done. And Trent Beretta is standing at the top of the ramp, and he cannot stop laughing. Orange Cassidy was all on his own, and all the bills came due at once. Trent Beretta's plan worked. The following week on Dynamite, Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta are backstage being interviewed by Renee Paquette, who asks Rocky Romero, why did you decide to side with Trent? And Rocky Romero says straight up, Trent was right. I'm not happy that Orange Cassidy ended up injured, but what Trent was saying was true. We are 4-time former IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, and we have never been treated as such. Why have we never been afforded those opportunities? We are Roppongi Vice, and you will put respect on that name. And Renee Paquette asks, well, Trent, what are you going to do now that Orange Cassidy is out of commission? And Trent Beretta looks at the camera, smiles, and is just like, whatever I want. So, it is a good time to be Trent Beretta. For the next, month, they are just on a tear. They are beating all your favorite tag teams, and they are efficient. Top Flight, Dark Order, The Acclaimed, The Guns, House of Black, The Kingdom, The Young Bucks. That's right. The following pay-per-view, Forbidden Door, the tag team of Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta, Roppongi Vice, actually upset and defeat the Young Bucks and take their tag titles and carry them for the next couple of months, just as an incredibly dominant tag team. It seems like nobody can stop them. Anybody who steps up, it doesn't matter. They are brutal, they are efficient, and they don't mind taking shortcuts. Well, it just isn't enough for Trent Beretta to be champion. It just isn't enough to have defeated his former friend, Orange Cassidy. It isn't enough to have embarrassed him in front of everybody. He had to keep going. He had to rub a little more salt in the wound. So, let me tell you about Danhausen. So Danhausen is somebody who is in the best friend's orbit. He's kind of a friend of Orange Cassidy. Also a silly comedy character, also a very good wrestler, but he has this thing where he curses people. He goes, "You are cursed," and then something bad, like some bad luck happens to them. Some misfortune befalls them. It's a great gimmick. So he is backstage, and he is getting interviewed by Renee Paquette, who's basically asking, Danhausen, do you have any news about Orange Cassidy's recovery? And Danhausen, starts to give kind of a non-committal answer, and Trent Beretta walks up and just goes, "Hey." And Danhausen kind of like, it takes a second to register, and then he realizes, "Oh, I'm in danger." And he goes, "You are," and Trent Beretta just hits him. And hits him and hits him and hits him and hits him and just beats the heck out of Danhausen and also the poop. He just wails on him, leaves him a mess, and then poses Danhausen just like Orange Cassidy with the thumbs up on his chest. Later that night, another person in Orange Cassidy's orbit, a guy named Hook, who is also kind of like a cool, calm, collected, mellow guy. Like they're two different flavors of the same mellow, if you follow me. He's like a stoic badass, basically. He goes up to Trent Beretta and he says, "Trent, if you have a problem with a man, you don't cheap shot him. You don't stab him in the back. You don't go after his friends. You tell him to his face. And Trent, I have a problem with you." They have a match. Like, it is Trent Beretta with his just like raw power and like power move technique and just like his veteran toughness up against Hook, who's like this very young athletic dude who has like a really good striking game. He has really good submissions. And, it's competitive, but Trent gets the edge. He's kind of like, he's kind of showboating, and Hook manages to get his submission move, the red rum, in. He's like behind Trent Beretta, has it cinched in. He's like choking him off. Trent Beretta rolls under the bottom rope in front of the announce table. The impact makes Hook let go. They both kind of stumble to their feet. Trent Beretta picks up a chair. And if he hits Hook, it's going to be a disqualification. What's he going to do? He turns and hits Taz, the announcer, and Hook's real-life father. Hook is just horrified. And then he turns and Trent is on him and just starts wailing on him. He used that moment of shock to like get the upper hand. It's not enough. Hook is mad, throws him in the ring, starts wailing on him, but he's too angry. He's reckless. Trent Beretta gets him. Strong 0. 1, 2, 3. Trent wins. It's not enough. He grabs the chair. Slides out of the ring, grabs a chair, comes back in, hits Hook, and then pulls something out of his pocket. And because he was wearing like a denim jacket, I should have told you. But yeah, he pulls something out of it. And what is it? It's a pair of sunglasses. And he holds them up kind of backwards to the camera. There's something on the inside of them. Is that broken glass? No. Puts him on Hook, hits him in the face. Hook is out. Everyone in Orange Cassidy's orbit has been beaten. Well, this whole time, Chris Statlander has been going it alone in the women's division. Willow didn't really forgive Chris Statlander for coming out and saving her. She's like, "I know you tried to help, but I said I wanted to see if I could beat Mercedes Moné at 100%, and now I still don't know. and you broke your promise to me, and it cost me the TBS title. Don't get involved in any of my matches. I just need some time. And they don't like hate each other, but you know, they go their separate ways. Chris Statlander is doing great though in like women's competition. She's kind of revitalized, and she gets a shot at the next pay-per-view against Mercedes Moné for the TBS title. That same night that Roppongi Vice are going to be defending their championship against, let's say, the Lucha Brothers, because I'd love to see that. Well, start of the pay-per-view, Roppongi Vice beat the Lucha Brothers, retain their tag team championships. Later on that night, Chris Statlander up against Mercedes Moné. It looks competitive. Chris Statlander up on the top rope, about to do that awesome 450 I told you about. Trent Beretta comes up behind her, shoves her off. She goes falling. Mercedes Moné gets the upper hand, gets her into her, whatever her bank statement is going to be called in AEW. Chris Statlander has to tap out. Mercedes Moné, she knows she just survived, so she's headed to the back. Trent Beretta, though, he's not done. So he picks up Chris Statlander, and I know, okay, so some people are like of two minds about like mixed wrestling. I don't think there's a problem with it. I see it like comic books. You know, Catwoman and Batman, there's no problem if they fight. Superman and Cheetah. You know, we accept this all the time in comic books. No problem. Because why? The story pushes them into conflict. And just in case there's any other like worry, Chris Statlander has been in some of the hardest of hardcore matches, like very recently. Just like so many thumbtacks and so much barbed wire. So anything that you could throw at Chris Statlander, she is ready for. So with that, I am going to continue, but I understand if you're averse to it, I hope you understand the story reason behind it. So he picks her up and hits her with a strong zero. He goes out and grabs a chair, puts it around her leg, her surgically repaired leg. She has ACL issues in the past. And he looks like he is going to try and injure her. That's enough. Jane hits. Orange Cassidy's theme. He is booking it down the ramp. And Trent looks like he has seen a ghost. And he is out of there. But, what happens? He turns around. Chris Statlander is ready with the chair. She clocks him, knocks him down. Orange Cassidy hits him with the Superman punch before finally Trent gets away. They turned the tables on Trent Beretta. For the first time, they have the upper hand. So, following week on Dynamite, the Young Bucks have been in their EVP roles for the past several months now in real life. They have been, they are real life executive vice presidents of AEW. And they have been using that lately in storyline to, basically just be power tripping dickheads. And they're very good at that. It's kind of like a scumbag version of the Beverly Hillbillies. So yeah, they're basically, backstage at the start of the show. And they're just like, we have been off dealing with executive vice president stuff. Very important but boring stuff that we won't tell you about for the last few months. But now our agenda is clear. And we are going to go back for the tag team titles. Now, here's the problem. Unfortunately, there's a clause in our contracts, a no self-dealing clause that says we can't give ourselves or each other title shots. However, we can give ourselves number one contender shots. So we are going to book ourselves tonight in a number one contender match against a tag team that we met in the tag team tournament, who very nearly stopped us from getting those titles. And meanwhile, everybody is going to be thinking like FTR. They're longtime rivals, the team they met in the tag team finals. They're thinking, here we go, like Young Bucks versus FTR 5. I cannot wait. And so, yeah, the Young Bucks are just basically like, yeah, we're going up against a team that really pushed us to our limit in the tag team tournament. The best friends. What? Orange Cassidy's first night back, he's been booked into a handicap match against the Young Bucks. That night in the main event, Orange Cassidy is standing in the middle of the ring, getting ready for his handicap match against the Young Bucks for the right to challenge for the tag team championships. And Young Bucks come down to the ring, microphone in hand. One of them, let's say Matthew, says, Orange, you don't have to do this. We don't want to have to hurt you. You sell a lot of merch. You could just forfeit. After all, we don't want to have to hurt you again after we already kind of broke up your friends last time. Orange Cassidy is pissed. He steps up and Nicholas is like, Orange, you don't have a lot of friends around here. Who's going to tag with you? Sue? Best Friends music hits. Sue's minivan comes rolling down the ramp. Door opens. Who is it? Chris Statlander steps out. She walks into the ring, stands next to Orange Cassidy. She's like, I'll tag with him. Young Bucks are like, no, you can't do that. No. And she's just like, you asked for the best friends. We're the best friends. And Young Bucks are like, well, what do you think? Nicholas is like, okay. Double super kicks. They knock Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander down, ring the bell, match is on. They're going back and forth. Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander are doing pretty well. Like, Orange Cassidy can reverse like a moonsault into a Big Bang Theory, which is like Chris Statlander's finishing move. Or like, and like Chris Statlander could like knock one of them down with an orange punch. I love it when like tag partners use each other's moves. It's so cool. So like they're holding their own, but it's obvious the Young Bucks are just the better team. They have years of experience, all of this success behind them. But backstage, Trent Beretta is watching and he is seething. Why is his mom down there supporting Orange Cassidy? What won't he take? Trent Beretta comes storming down the ramp. He hops up onto the ring apron. He's about to clock Orange Cassidy with his tag team championship belt, which in wrestling hurts. Like there's just kind of a big scrum in the middle of the ring. Ref's distracted. Perfect opportunity. Sue grabs him by the ankle. Trent looks down. That moment of hesitation. He brings his title up, swings, hits one of the Young Bucks. Let's say Matthew. Orange Cassidy comes flying in. Orange punch. Knocks out Nick. Dives, takes Trent off the apron. They start fighting. Chris Statlander pins Matthew Jackson in the middle of the ring with a mousetrap. Orange Cassidy's signature pin. 1, 2, 3. They are going to challenge for the tag team championships. Obviously, the Young Bucks are pissed. This is not how this was supposed to go. So they start attacking Chris Statlander and Orange Cassidy and Trent Beretta, but they're just going after each other. Like, they see how savagely Orange Cassidy and like Trent Beretta are going after each other. Chris Statlander just gets Sue away. So the Young Bucks are like kind of feeling a little awkward, and they're like, "Do you just want to go?" Yeah, well, bye. And they just did. Like, next week on Dynamite, yeah, it goes off the air with Orange Cassidy fighting Trent Beretta. Like, they're smashing each other into like the minivan, just really, really getting into it. Next week on Dynamite, the Young Bucks, again, EVPs, they have the right to, set matches and stuff like that. They are seen backstage getting interviewed, and they're just like, we are really mad about having our tag team title shot stolen from us last week. And believe me, we want to get revenge on the Best Friends, and we want to get revenge on Roppongi Vice. But I don't think there's anything we could do to you that would come anywhere close to what you guys would do to each other. So instead, our punishment for you is that you're going to fight in a no disqualification parking lot street fight match. So, next pay-per-view, parking lot street fight. Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander standing across from Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta. Tag team championships on the line. So for those of you not familiar with a parking lot street fight, let me lay out a bit of the logistics. So it's a no rules match that happens in, like it sounds, a parking garage where the action is surrounded on all sides by a bunch of cars and trucks that have been parked in a circle. And there's all sorts of, trash cans and kendo sticks and all the sorts of stuff that you'd expect to see in that sort of match, right? And so on one side, Chris Statlander and Orange Cassidy are standing there. Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero on the other. And Trent's just like, why did everything good happen to you? And Orange Cassidy just shrugs his shoulders and he's like, I don't know. Match is on. They just collide in the middle of like the fighting arena, going back and forth, but Orange Cassidy actually is not having that much success against Trent Beretta. Trent Beretta's been studying Orange Cassidy for a while. He's been planning for this. So when Orange Cassidy tries to land his signature offense, it's all getting countered. Trent Beretta, on the other hand, he's wearing Orange Cassidy down with like his power moves. He's got like a brawling style, and of course he's using the weapons as weapons. So Orange Cassidy is just not quite keeping up. But you know who can? Chris Statlander. She manages to put Rocky Romero down, and she comes in and assists Orange Cassidy, and she manages to go power for power with Trent Beretta. They're just brawling around. She manages to land a Big Bang Theory on like the windshield of a car. It would look awesome. That's all I'm saying. So, like, all of a sudden, Orange Cassidy is getting some of that dynamic offense against Rocky Romero. Let these two go in an environment like this, magic is going to happen. It's going to be mental. So it actually looks like Orange and Chris are getting the upper hand when Trent Beretta goes into the cab of one of the trucks. He's hidden something away. He grabs the strap from his and Orange Cassidy's strap match. He cuffs Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander together. They're, it inhibits their mobility. They're not able to fight as well. And all of a sudden, Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta are able to make a comeback. They're fighting back and forth, but it's, they're really just, the odds seem too stacked against them. Orange Cassidy goes for an orange punch on Rocky Romero, hits the window of a car. It shatters, injures his hand. He's just lost his main weapon for putting down an opponent. And he and Rocky Romero, brawl back and forth until finally Orange manages to slip out of something and puts him down with a beach break onto the hood of a car. Because again, it would look awesome. They've done stuff like this before. I'm not proposing anything groundbreaking here. Just for those of you who are horrified that this is, I'm not breaking new ground. Chris Statlander, in the meanwhile, is going back and forth against Trent Beretta. They're on the hood of the hood of a car, and Trent Beretta manages to drop Chris Statlander with a strong zero with his finishing move, and he has that lead pipe, and he looks over at Orange Cassidy, who is stood on another car, and he's just like, "You did this," and Trent Beretta goes to hit Chris Statlander in her knee. Like I said, she's had ACL issues. Chris Statlander grabs the strap, which is wrapped around Trent Beretta's ankle, yanks it. He's knocks him off balance. Orange Cassidy leaps onto the roof of the car, doesn't go for an orange punch, hugs Trent Beretta, holds him tight, and jumps off through a table covered in barbed wire. 1, 2, 3. New tag team champions. Orange Cassidy pinned Trent Beretta. Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander, stand up, hold up their tag team championship belts, hold hands. Trent Beretta is being stretchered into an ambulance. Sue gets in the ambulance with him and accompanies him to the hospital. The next week on Dynamite, Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander come down to the ring in their best friends' jackets. They unzip them, they take them off and leave them in the ring. They reveal their t-shirts for their new tag team, just white t-shirts with black permanent marker on them with the name of their tag team name. I think it's funny. So they don't have to go on a big long run. It's a feel-good moment, and that's all wrestling has to be sometimes. Sometimes it can be a great story that leads to a satisfying finish, and I hope. And that can be the payoff. I like the story because it brings in, a lot of their history, and rather than kind of stagnating or just dissolving the best friends and, sending all these people in separate directions and wishing them luck, you make a new tag team in Chris Statlander and Orange Cassidy, tag team name, TTN. You bring back Roppongi Vice. You give Trent Beretta and Rocky Romero, two extremely talented wrestlers, something to do. You kind of mix up the tag division. And yeah, Orange Cassidy and Chris Statlander, they can drop the belt in a month. Chris Statlander is going to come out of that run in an incredible position, strap the rocket to her and send her to the moon. She was a space alien. Put her at the top of the women's division. Seriously, after this, she can go for the women's World Heavyweight Championship. Easy. So, I hope everybody enjoyed my really, really long fantasy booking story of the end of the Best Friends. Um, I had to get it out. I'm sorry, um, but I hope you enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed it with me.